Tony Mulkern specializes in the development of delivery of leading-edge executive coaching, executive launch, and leadership development programs. Clients include entrepreneurial companies committed to rapid growth and to optimizing the effectiveness of their senior leadership teams. He is uniquely adept at one-on-one coaching with senior executives and owners.
I find that entrepreneurs do a good job of managing while the company is still small. It's when it grows that they have dissatisfaction, and that's where I as an executive coach help them. And I bring three things to the table. First of all is my experience as an executive myself and over 25 years of coaching. Secondly, my Socratic background so that I can ask penetrating questions that help them see the implications of the various choices. Third, I have a deep background in psychological counseling so I can get their emotional trust, show empathy, and get them to really open up about what the experience is about. This allows me to do an assessment, to make tailored recommendations, to help them get what they want. In speaking with the entrepreneurial CEOs of growing companies like you all lead, one of the most important points that I can make is that if you want to get people to do what you need them to do, you need to be able to lead by example, and you need to know your employees. Let me give you a couple of stories to illustrate the points. I had a friend who was in the Marine Corps and named Bob, and he was telling me that when he was in boot camp, he got into a lot of trouble, and so the drill instructor decided, as his punishment, to take him into the latrine. And these latrines were covered with this green, disgusting slime. And he said, I want you to clean all of these up until they're sparkling. And Bob said, okay, fine. Where are the cleaning utensils? And the drill instructor walked over to the latrine, and he took his thumbnail and he scraped some of the slime off the wall of the latrine and said, this is how you clean it. And Bob said, that's what he did. But he also told me that he never would have done that if the drill instructor hadn't done it first. And showed him, you know, this is not beneath me. I've been there. I know what you're going through, buddy, but you're going to have to do it. The other example, in terms of knowing your people, goes back to the great legendary coach of the Green Bay Packers, Vince Lombardi. He has an image of being this extremely tough, autocratic kind of a leader. And in fact, sometimes that's the face that people saw. There was one player whom he thought was not really putting out all the effort he should have, so he actually made him play a game with a broken rib. Where he has another player who, in fact, had very difficult times with his own self-esteem. He was constantly down on himself. He was constantly getting discouraged. So Lombardi would take him into the locker room and he'd put his arm around him and he'd reassure him and he'd tell him that he was much better than he thought he was. And the key to his success was that he knew the people who were working for him and he was able to adapt his style depending upon who they were. So you got to lead by example. You got to show that whatever you're asking people is not beneath you, and you got to know them and you've got to be able to adapt to their values, their style, and their needs. Jack, looks like you might have a question there.
I mean, I've been listening to you talk, and it occurred to me that my company, which is fairly young, but has 250 employees and was doing really well for a while, now the senior officers don't get along. They don't talk to each other. When they do communicate, it feels like it's not getting anywhere. It's kind of stilted. So here's my question for you. It seems like it's now time for a more heartful kind of session, where a sort of a communication session where we bring them in and let them talk to each other and get to a place where they can feel better about each other. Is that what you think?
Well, you know, Jack, a lot of consultants in my field would start that way. I would not. My experience is that 90% of the conflicts among senior officers are over roles, responsibilities, and authority, not over personality or communication issues. And if you start with the what some people call the touchy-feely stuff, you'll be chasing your tail with that forever. So I think it's important first to figure out clearly what is the mission of this organization and what is our vision, and what is each person supposed to do and produce in the way of results to accomplish that mission. Not just what they do, not just what their job descriptions are, but what is each person supposed to produce. Once you have clarity about that, then you can figure out who is really committed, who is really in the right job, And then you can begin, if the other 10%, there may be some personality issues or communication skills which need to be improved, then you can work on that. But if you start there, I don't think you get very far.
Thank you, yeah.
I've got a question.
Okay?
I reward my people very well, and I expect them to get good results. But sometimes they just seem so unmotivated, and a lot of people tell me, well, I just need to give more pats on the back or something. But why can't they just do what they're paid to do? Why isn't the monthly paycheck that they get reward enough?
Well, that's a really good question, you know, and I can understand your frustration. I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs, they go through great sacrifice and often pay themselves starvation wages for years to get the company off the ground. Then they hire some high-priced talent, and then we have to worry about motivating them, right? So let me ask you all a question. How many people in here have ever managed volunteers? What volunteer organization was that?
Future Generation R&D.
Future Generation in R&D?
Right.
Okay, great.
People to people.
People to people, okay, good. Anybody else?
Not really.
Well, let me give you my view. All of us are managing volunteers. Every one of us. Now, no matter how much you pay people, if they do anything above what is absolutely required to keep from getting fired, that's volunteer work. Anything above the minimum needed to maintain their jobs, they are doing volunteer work. And that means somehow or another you have to, however much you're paying them, you have to provide the incentive for them to exercise their creativity and their energy and to give their all. Now, I happen to think that has to do with not simply trying to impose the company goals and mission on them, but making them a part of the company mission and goals. In fact, if possible, have them help you form the mission and help you form the goals in accordance with their values, their needs, their priorities, and certainly at the very least to get their ideas on how to implement the company mission. That has to be done, otherwise you get the minimum.
In addition to making numerous executive presentations, Tony has appeared in many business and national media.
With Eyewitness News at 6.
Advise you to turn up the volume on your TV.
Tony Mulkern says you need to go in armed with research.
So you do your homework and you go prepared and you say, this is the way in which I've increased productivity. This is the way in which I've increased quality, customer service.
Please contact Tony Mulkern to discuss your next speaking event.